Hello my friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa Stringworks workshop. Got a fun little project today. We gave away this fiddle to a girl by the name of Grace. And the story is that Grace has been playing fiddle for quite a while, but she's always had to lease or rent a fiddle. So she doesn't own one. Well, Cecilia, the owner of this fiddle, wanted me to give it away and give it to somebody that really needed a good violin. This is what I would call a decent student grade violin. It's a pretty decent one, really. And I think we can make it even better. And so that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to put some new strings on it. We're going to put a new bridge on it. I'm going to try to fix up this bow a little bit, though this bow probably does need to be replaced. And I'm also going to try to fix up this case a little bit because it's got a few little minor problems too. So we're going to try to get this thing up in tip-top shape so we can send it to Grace. So follow along and we'll see how this goes. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and take these strings off, and we're going to get a new bridge and get it set up and put some new strings on this thing.
An old battered case, weathered and worn, with the hinges all rusted.
One of the things I like to do is check the height of the fingerboard, and it's a little bit above 3/4, but not quite at 7/8, so that's pretty good. I prefer to see them at 7/8, but you can see that this bridge has been cut way down compared to, this is a new unfitted bridge. And you can see it's been cut quite a bit. And we're going to have to cut this one too when we get her set up. I prefer that this be a little taller, therefore you can have a little taller bridge on them. But I'm not going to reset the whole neck and everything to do this. We'll make it work. I'm going to just kind of pencil line across there to give myself something to chisel to. I like to thin these feet way down. If you ever need to chisel feet off like this, you try to do it in several slices rather than just go straight to your line. You just want to sneak up on it and just really shave thin slices. Otherwise you'll break your foot. It'll break this piece of wood.
And the fabric all torn, but still cradled inside, was one old precious thing. It was Grandpa's old fiddle, oh how.
Now what I do after I chisel the feet off and make them real thin like that, then I'll set it on here and I'll get a piece of sandpaper and we'll make it fit even better. It should already fit fairly well, and it does sit pretty well, but I can see light under it, and so we'll work on that. So here's a piece of 220. Now, most people go back and forth this way, and I know that that's the standard, but I prefer to do it this way. I go this way, and the reason is because I can see this visually standing up versus leaning like this. I'm not rounding the feet off. When I go back and forth this way, I could round the feet off a little bit. This really, for me, works the best, but everybody has their method, and this is how I do it. And I don't move it very far. I just barely move it. I'm only moving it about 1/8 of an inch. So, I'm exactly in the spot I want to be in, and it fits it very, very, very well.
Sweetly it rings. Grandpa's old fiddle played sweet melodies. He played it from his heart for mine.
Okay, I think I'm satisfied with that. For whatever reason, the pencil lines I put on there didn't match the top as well as it usually does, so I had to do a little bit more sanding, but that's okay. It's worked out pretty well. I'm just going to do a little bit more right now because I think there's just a little bit better fit that can be made here. I think that's pretty good. What I do to mark these is I'll hold this about where it needs to be, and then I take just a pencil like this. Just works pretty well for me. And if you notice, I'm pivoting it here on the treble side like this. So it makes a long pivot. And then on this side, I kind of let it drop off. You know, kind of like that. It looks like we're going to have to cut off quite a bit of it, unfortunately. I was kind of hoping to keep it a little taller. I probably will leave the line and leave it a little bit taller, because a taller bridge is really a little bit better. Anyway, I'm going to do it something like that. I've kind of messed it up a little bit there, but you can kind of see. I like to leave this side a little longer, kind of arch, and then the bass string a little bit of a drop off. So anyway, that's how we're going to do it. I'll show you what it looks like after I saw that off. This one's an 8mm, I think. And we're going to cut away a lot of the meat here and make it a nice thin bridge. And the reason you do that is so that it vibrates even better. Now on these decorative parts, like right here, you have to be careful how you cut that. If you cut sideways, you'll break that off. If you cut this way, you can break it off. If you cut into it, you generally won't break it off. So that's what I do. It's kind of the same way on these pieces here. I typically cut them this way, you know, not across them so much. It looks like I'm cutting across it, but I'm actually starting just past it. So we just want to get rid of a lot of the bulk. You can see just lots of shavings coming off of this thing. So we're going to lighten it up a lot. And just so you know, you generally do all the carving on the side that doesn't have the embossed, the label there. So the label usually goes to the back on a violin style instrument. And I'm trying to keep this flat the whole time I'm doing this so that this whole side is just one plane. After you've used a finger plane a lot, you can control that pretty well. If you haven't used a finger plane, it's difficult. I haven't even cleaned mine up yet, but I think you can see a quality difference in this bridge. It's kind of clunky looking, and the fine lines that are in this bridge. It's just a nicer made bridge. You know, the old timers wouldn't do this, but I like to go ahead and just smooth it out with the sandpaper. People argue that it's filling the pores of the wood, and to some degree that's probably true. But I don't even think a dog could hear the difference that it would make. And it makes it a nicer job, a nicer looking job.
Grandpa made wrinkled old hands, he held it with love, and I can still hear it laying up in heaven above.
Feels a little thick on this one side here. I'm going to try to work that down a little bit more. That looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. You can see how thin it is. Pretty thin compared to how thick this one was. So quite a bit different. And this one is, you know, quite a bit taller too. I say quite a bit. It's about that much taller. You can see the difference there. So it's a thick pencil line taller, and taller is better when it comes to bridges. These Red Label violin strings, these are not the highest end strings, but they're decent strings, and I think they'll sound okay once we get her all set up here. Okay, now to start the stringing process, first thing, when you've got these adjusters, I adjust them all the way out so that they're not pushing down. We'll get the tailpiece put back on the end pin. And I'm going by the color chart here, and even though I'm colorblind, I can kind of tell which one goes with which, I think. I can see the blue pretty good, and the red one is this one here, I guess it's red, is E. So, and I can see them fairly well. So this one is the G, plus it looks like it is the biggest, and I'm just making sure, you know, just because sometimes violin strings are a little weird on the size. You can't hardly go by size all the time. That's another problem you have with these. A lot of times the groove is so tiny it won't let the string get down in there. So sometimes I take and open the groove up just a little bit. Just force a screwdriver down in there a little bit, and it'll open it up just a tiny bit. And this peg is coming out. So hopefully it'll go back in there. I think it's okay. There we go. I got it in there that time. I generally start with the closest peg to the fingerboard. In this case, of course, it would be your G. And unfortunately, the hole that's in here is not big enough to go put this through. Didn't expect that problem. So let me open that hole up just a little bit. I'll show you how I do that. I have over the years scrounged up a lot of little tiny wire drills. They're very tiny, and I found the next size up for this that I have anyway. And I think it'll be just big enough to let this go through. But maybe not. No, it just barely. Yeah, it's a tight fit. Now what I do when I wind these strings is I actually start winding away from the peg for like 2 winds, something like that, 1 or 2 winds, 1.5 even, and then I come back over it and I wind toward the peg. And that locks the string in where the string cannot turn loose. And we'll get this close, and we'll get the bridge set in place and tighten it up a little bit more. We're not going to tighten it real tight yet, and we're not going to worry about the bridge placement yet, but we're just getting it close. And then the next string that's closest to the fingerboard is the E, and according to this, the E is that red one, which I think is this one. Just comparing them here to make sure I'm not missing something. I think that's it. Just double checking. Yeah, that's blue, and this one's a weird color, so this is it. Again, it's kind of tight, so I'm just going to open it up a little bit. Might as well just go ahead and open all of them a little bit. Hopefully this one's got the hole big enough that I can put this through. I don't think it is. I'm going to drill it out. I'll probably drill all these out because these holes are just microscopic, and the strings that are in this were pretty cheap.
The most honest man that I ever have seen, and his time on this old earth was most precious to me. He lived on Current River at the mouth of Blue Springs, and at night the hills echoed as the old fiddle would ring.
All right, 90% of it's out of the way. What I'm going to do is measure the length of the E string here, and I like to see them at about 325 to a little bit more millimeters. Okay, it's right on the money at 325 right now. Exactly on the money. So, And now I'm going to visually look at these strings, and I try to spread them out so that you get a good width. But it has to match your fingerboard too. This is kind of a narrow fingerboard, so I'm not going to be able to spread them out like I would typically spread them out. Looks like the strings are going to be just a tad high. I don't like that. I don't want them real high, but I want them decent, you know. The higher the better, that as long as you can play them well. You know, you can't get it so high you can't play them well. The string's a little high here, so I'm going to get it down some. The trick on this is you don't want the string to touch in the middle and not touch on this inside edge. You want it to be on the inside edge, the last place it touches as it goes over the fingerboard. And I'm trying to get it down low enough that you don't have to press very hard to get it down right up in here. And it's pretty close to that right now. It's just about there. That's really nice. You barely have to touch it to get it down. The other strings aren't too bad. This D is a little bit high. I'll try knocking it down a little bit also.
Grandpa's old fiddle played sweet melodies. He played it from his heart for my grandma and me.
Okay, I'm about 326, which I think's good. All right, now let me look at the sound post and see if it's where I want it. It's not really that great. It's way back behind. The sound post in this case is sitting about right here. You prefer to have the sound post about right here, pretty much directly behind the bridge foot, the treble foot, and maybe an 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch behind the foot. This foot is about right here. It's almost good enough, but since we're going this far, we might as well try to make it a little bit better. So I'll probably end up having to make a new sound post, I imagine, because I doubt this one's going to fit in the place where I want it to fit. I'm going to see if I can move this sound post and put it where I want it. I just have a feeling it's not going to work, but you never know until you try. Here's a little tool for extracting sound posts. I don't think this is going to go where I want it. It won't hurt to try it one time though. Double check this because that moved again.
Wrinkled old hands, he held it with love, and I can still hear it playing up in heaven above.
I think that's good enough. It's just about where I want it right there. I think we got lucky on that one. I didn't think it would be tall enough, but it looks pretty good. It's set right about, it's just about where I want it, right about right there. We're going to go ahead and tune this up. I'll tune it up and then we'll play it for you. Well, I've got her tuned up. Here's a little bit of what she sounds like. Not a bad sound. I think it's going to be fine. Before we can play it, we're going to have to work on the bow a little bit. The bow has got some issues. So let's work on that and we'll see how that goes. Okay, the problem with this bow is it won't tighten up anymore. So I'm going to take this off first and see if we might have a way to fix it to where it'll tighten up some more. Oh, my hands are so sore. It hurts so bad to do that motion. It's really hard to do that motion anymore. Hurts a lot. Maybe I can do it with this hand. Doesn't hurt as much with this hand. So I got that out of there. See, I think this is just bottoming out right here. It's probably not the best way to do this, but I think for our purposes, and since I don't think this bow's much good as it is, I think I'm just going to try to extend this back a little bit and see if that'll work. And if it will, great. And for the skeptics out there, or the people that are thinking I'm a hack on this, Let me explain to you that this bow isn't hardly worth saving. It's got a bad curve going to this direction. You know, I know that I could take the hair apart, tighten the hair up. It's not worth that much effort. This is just the easiest way to do it, and that's how we're going to do it.
Just a boy at the time.
You know, if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't know that that wasn't done that way originally. So what I'll do is put this back together now, just making sure I didn't get it twisted somehow. I don't think I did, although it kind of looks a little twisted on its own, honestly. I already did put some oil on this the other day to see if that would help, but it didn't. But I think I'm going to put another drop of oil on this mechanism. Just a little bit. Won't hurt nothing. I know it won't hurt anything to do it this way compared to where we were, because it wasn't working. Yeah, that's a lot better. It's still not great, but it's a lot better. The hair wouldn't even get off of this bow stick before. Now it's at least coming off of that. And like I said, this bow has got such a bad bend in it the wrong way. It's just not going to be real usable in the long term anyway. You know, you can buy them inexpensively these days, and you'd be better off to just get a new bow. Well, my friends, this case has a little bit of a problem also. You can see these little cheapy bow holders have fallen out. And we're going to try to put them back in and see if we can make them work. Don't know if that's going to be possible, quite honestly. We'll just see if we can. At least one of them. If we could get one of them to work, that would be pretty good. I think the screws are a little bit short. It's kind of holding right there. Maybe I ought to leave well enough alone. It's kind of holding. It's not too bad. It's holding. Probably won't last. And I thought I had all 4 screws, but apparently one of them has fallen out, and I don't see it. Let me look around and see if I can find the screw that fell out of there. I think the other screw was here, but I don't see it right now. Well, I got those holders back in there, and I'll be quite honest with you, I think I got them in turned around 180. I think they should have been tilted outward, but they're tilted inward, and it's too late now. I didn't realize that, but hopefully it'll hold the bow. Looks like it might hold the bow. Yeah, actually it holds it pretty well, so maybe it's tilted the right way. I think that's going to work just fine. Fiddle should fit in there nicely, and nothing should touch. Should be just fine. So that's how she looks. Better than it was when it got here, that's for sure. All right, I'm by no means a fiddle player. I think this is in relative tune, and we'll just let you hear what it does sound like. Don't expect much. That's about all I got. Hands are too sore to even try to do more than that. It's a pretty decent student grade fiddle. I would say this is at least as good as anything you're going to go out there and rent. So I hope you really enjoy it, Grace. I hope you play it and learn to do really well with it. I wish you all the best.